Have you heard of Motown's sound? Well, today we'll be exploring the life and success of the Black Hollywood icon who made African American music in Hollywood what it is today. Berry Gordy was born on November 28, 1929, as the seventh child of 8 children. He was born in Detroit shortly after his parents moved there to avoid racial persecution from hate groups in southern Georgia. His father saw the booming automotive industry in Detroit and decided that it would be a safer and more financially beneficial place to stay. Detroit was a bustling metropolitan city, with lots of diversity and much less the racial tension and violence plaguing the South at the time. This allowed his father to open up a grocery store, a printing business, and a plastering company. Because the businesses were doing quite well, Berry found himself born into a middle-class black family, more than most African American people had at the time. All of this despite the fact that Berry was basically born at the cusp of the Great Depression. While most of his brothers were content with working the jobs their father assigned them at his businesses, Berry and Robert wanted more. They enjoyed singing and dancing and music and wanted to make a career out of it. However, at the time, Berry's greatest ambition was to become a boxer. His other brothers were set on the path to graduating high school and working under their father as normal. Berry, on the other hand, dropped out of high school despite opposition from his father and brothers about the decision. He wanted to be a professional boxer because he believed he could get rich quickly. For a few years, he was a professional boxer and made a fair income, but not as much as he probably expected. His path to boxing stardom was cut short in 1950 at the age of 21, when he was drafted to serve in the U.S. military. He had to serve in Korea and became a chaplain's assistant. His duties were now limited to driving the Jeep around and playing the organ for religious services. Upon his return in 1953, he got a GED to make up for not getting a high school diploma. He was now 24 and fresh out of the military and had to make a living. However, his interest in boxing had waned, and he began to seek out more conventional ways to achieve that goal. Like his father, he decided to start a business. In Toledo, Ohio, he opened a record store named 3D Record Mart. A lot of Gordy's earlier years were never marked with a distinct or directed attraction or interest in music. For the most part, it was a hobby or casual interest. It was only now at the age of 24, when owning a record store, that his career in and passion for music began. He mostly sold jazz music records and 3D glasses. His store was failing. He wasn't making any sales, and the general community was disinterested in giving him their business. During this time, he would listen to records in his store and write his own songs. When the business closed down, he went looking for work at a chemical plant, but instead found work at a nightclub where he met Jackie Wilson. Jackie and Berry share similarities in their life stories. Jackie grew up in suburban Detroit and dropped out of high school at 15 to pursue a career in professional boxing just like Berry. But Jackie didn't make it as far as Berry. A year in, his mother forced him to quit boxing and had him marry Frida Hood. They had their first child when he was 17. They both started their music careers the same year they met. They started working together, and within 2 years, Jackie released the song Riet Petite, written by Berry with the help of his sister Gwen and producer Billy Davis. It may not have been much of a hit in America, but it was topping charts internationally, especially in the UK. They continued to work together for 2 more years, creating songs that were slowly making the top 10 R&B charts in the US. With all the money they made from the successful records, Berry would invest the profits to fund his endeavors to produce music. For the final stretch, he borrowed $8,000 to start Tamla Records. When his company merged with Motown Record Corporation, everything they made was distinctly identified as Motown sound. And you may be wondering what that is exactly. Click the subscribe button and notification bell to never miss out on the latest stories about the history makers of Black Hollywood. There are a lot of sounds from our childhoods and television that sound familiar, but we can't put our finger on them. Motown Records was more than just a record label. It was a cultural phenomenon that transcended racial boundaries and reshaped the landscape of popular music forever. Under Gordy's leadership after the merge, Motown became synonymous with the sound of an African-American-led revolution of music. Gordy had a unique talent for spotting real talent and creating music that people wanted to listen to. Music by African Americans, for African Americans, with a distinct sound and style. He implemented groundbreaking artist development programs that provided aspiring musicians with the tools they needed to thrive in an industry rife with challenges and obstacles for Black music. The label churned out a string of chart-topping hits and launched the careers of legendary artists such as the Supremes, featuring Diana Ross, Mary Wilson, and Florence Ballard, who became one of Motown's most successful acts. Motown was responsible for the success of some of the most iconic names in pop music. The Temptations, known for their smooth harmonies and choreographed performances, were produced by Motown. The Temptations were one of Motown's most successful male groups. Their hits like My Girl and Ain't Too Proud to Beg showcased the Motown sound and its appeal to a broad audience. Marvin Gaye's soulful voice and socially conscious lyrics made him one of Motown's most iconic solo artists. His album, What's Going On, addressed issues like poverty, war, and environmental concerns, resonating deeply with the Black community and highlighting the versatility of the Motown sound. Stevie Wonder's innovative blend of soul, R&B, and pop, combined with his exceptional songwriting and musical talent, made him a Motown legend. Hits like Superstition and Signed Sealed Delivered I'm Yours showcase the Motown sound's evolution and its ability to transcend traditional boundaries. Motown Records provided a platform for Black artists to achieve mainstream success during a time of racial segregation and discrimination in the United States. Their success served as a source of pride and inspiration for the Black community, demonstrating that talent knows no racial boundaries by proving that what was actually important for their success was creating the opportunity for them to shine. The Motown sound not only entertained, but also reflected the experiences and aspirations of Black Americans. Its rhythms and relatable lyrics spoke to the joys, struggles, and resilience of the Black community, creating a sense of solidarity and shared identity. Motown artists paved the way for future generations of Black musicians and contributed to the broader civil rights movement. Their achievements helped challenge stereotypes and prejudice, promoting greater acceptance and inclusion in American society. In an era marked by racial segregation and inequality, Motown provided a platform for African American artists to shine on the world stage and to be known in spaces that were usually restricted from them. In a way, Motown Records shattered the social boundary of racialized music in America, allowing people to have the opportunity to listen to music from a more diverse set of artists. Barry won a lot of awards in the music industry for his innovative work. His awards include inductions into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and the Grammy Trustees Award. At the age of 89, Barry announced his retirement from the music industry. After years of creating the greatest legends of pop and R&B music, he believed it was time to pass the baton to the next generation and leave it all behind. Over the 66 years of his career, Barry has amassed a net worth of $400 million, according to Afrotech. This security probably contributed to his feeling that there was nothing more that he could do for the industry and that he would be better off in retirement. In 1953, Gordy married Thelma Coleman. They soon had 3 children together, Hazel Joy, Barry IV, and Terry James. Gordy was too busy building his record label, and Thelma often felt lonely and abandoned. Throughout the course of their marriage, they got divorced in 1959. Gordy, started dating Raynoma Mayberry Lyles, a fellow music aficionado, and together they composed the next chapter of his life in 1960. Their professional collaboration at Motown Records reverberated through the industry. Yet, like a record reaching its end, their partnership concluded in 1964. He then married Teresa Davis, who also worked with him at Motown Records. They got married in 1974 and had a son named Kerry. They have been married ever since. Kerry followed in his dad's footsteps and pursued a career in music production. He currently works as a music executive. At first, he lived with his mother, a music prodigy, until he was 13. From that point, he lived with his father, training to become a music producer and be employed at his dad's company. Berry's Motown mansion is located in Detroit's Boston Edison district. The home is 10,500 square feet and built in the Italian style with a limestone exterior to last centuries. It has 10 bedrooms, 5 fireplaces, a ballroom, and a sunroom. The home is pure luxury personified. Guests who visited his home when he lived there claim that Gordy once hung a painting of Michael Jackson above the fireplace of a main room. The home also had a game room and a 5-acre golf course. Everyone associated with Motown remembers this house as the place where all the fancy events were held. Berry loved to host a party with the people he worked with in the music industry and often held them in his ballroom. Click on this next video to learn about a Black Hollywood icon who changed the course of history with their talent. Have you heard of Motown's sound?